everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Mella, and if you're new to the channel, hi, hey, and welcome to the family. To all my 2 subscribers plus viewers, welcome back to another video. In today's video, guys, as you've seen the title above, we will be doing a Bible study session whereby we'll be focusing on the book of Esther, chapter 1 throughout 4, and I'll be doing more of this video, so please look out for them. So first of all, before I get into the content of today's video, I would just like to thank everyone who supported me throughout this YouTube channel. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you guys for viewing these videos, sharing, liking, and commenting down below. You guys have given me the motivation to keep on going with this YouTube channel, and I would like to thank you so much. So please keep on viewing, keep on subscribing, liking, and sharing these videos. They are very much appreciated, and keep on spreading the love. So, and I love you guys. So without me blabbering too much, let's get into the story. The book of Esther is a very entertaining book. It is a very entertaining book, and it also has a moral to its story. But most of it is very entertaining. When I read this book, I read it as if I was reading a novel. Which I was shocked at first that, okay, I read this as if I'm reading a Bible. I mean, I'm reading a novel. Which is not a bad thing. But the first time I read it that way. But then I came back to it for the second time, whereby now I was actually highlighting the climax of the story, highlighting the morals, the characteristics of the characters in the story, and what I can actually learn from each and every chapter. So that is what I will be sharing with you guys, what I've learned so far from chapter 1 up until chapter 5. Chapter 1, the book of Esther, chapter 1, we are introduced to Esther's world. We are introduced to Persia. We are introduced to Media. We are introduced to also the king who reigned over 127 provinces. A whole 127 provinces. I wonder how he did it, honestly. But anyway, we're introduced to this king who is King Xerxes, right? Other Bibles may call him by the name below. I don't even know how to pronounce it, and I'm not going to teach myself how to pronounce it because I've tried so much and I've been butchering the name, honestly. But I will stick to the one I know, which is King Xerxes, right? So we're introduced to the story of King Xerxes, whereby we are told that he reigned over 127 provinces. And in the 3rd year of his reign, he threw 2 banquets, right? The first one lasted 180 days. The second one lasted a minimum of 7 days, a total actually of 7 days. So the banquet that lasted 180 days was thrown for his servants, officials, the nobles, princes of what? Oh, princes of the provinces, the powers of Persia and Media, and all the important people, the deputy, a whole lot of them, right? And then the 7-day feast, it was for the people of Shushan, and other Bibles may say Susa, right? So it was for the people of Shushan, both big or small according to their lifestyle, right? Now, I also got the characteristic of the king, the first characteristic of the king, whereby he didn't like to take no for an answer. First of all, his law was that women should respect their husbands or males, right? And that if this rule is broken, then there has to be consequences, right? So it happened that, as you read actually, that Queen Vashti was commanded by the king to come so that people can see her beauty, to throw on the robe so that people can see her beauty, and she refused. The girl was like, no. The king got so angry to a point where even the officials advised him that they should teach Queen Vashti a lesson and take her off the throne. So basically, I just thought that he doesn't like taking no for an answer. He doesn't just like taking no for an answer. Now, moving on to chapter 2. Sorry, I might be looking down. Most of the times that's because I've written my notes down so that I don't forget the important points that I want to pinpoint, right? So, on moving on to chapter 2, we are introduced to two people in the story, right? So the first person we're introduced to is Mordecai, right? And Mordecai, we are told that he is the son of Jah, the family, there's a family tree right there. So Mordecai's family tree was introduced, whereby from verses 5 up until verses 6, and we are also in verse 7 we are introduced to the main character of the story. I like to think of her as the main character, but we are introduced to her, which is Hadassah. Is it Hadassah or Hadassah? I don't know how to pronounce this or whether the accent I'm using is correct, but we are introduced to Hadassah or Hadassah, who is commonly known as Esther, right? Who is also known as Esther, but she is commonly known as Esther. Okay, she was known that way, and we are introduced to her, whereby Esther is the daughter of Mordecai's uncle, who unfortunately died, and therefore Esther was taken into adoption by Mordecai, right? So now we are also told of Esther's image, whereby they say that she is beautiful, but not only beautiful, but a lovely woman, and she was loved immediately, right? So now when we read Esther chapter 2 verses 11, we have Esther chapter 2 verses 10 and 11. It says, Esther had not told anyone of her nationality and family background because Mordecai had directed her not to do so. Every day, Mordecai would take a walk near the courtyard of the harem to find out about Esther and what was happening to her, right? So now, in verse 10, we are introduced to Esther's characteristic, whereby she is obedient. She listened to I'd like to call him his father, because basically he was. Mordecai protected her and was a father figure to Esther. So she obeyed Mordecai, and she didn't tell anyone of her nationality, whereby she is a Jew. She didn't tell anyone. She decided that I am going to listen to him. I feel like if it was someone else, they would have probably said something or given a hint. But no, she didn't. And now in verse 11, we are introduced to Mordecai's character, whereby he is caring. I feel like every father would do the same for their child. Care for them. He was working there each and every day just to see that Esther was okay and was doing fine. Whereby she really was doing fine, hey? Now, when we move on to when we move on to Esther chapter 2 verses 21 up until 23, one day as Mordecai was on duty at the king's gate, two of the king's eunuchs, Bigtana and Teresh, who were guards at the door of the king's private quarters, became angry at King Xerxes and plotted to assassinate him. But Mordecai heard about the plot and gave the information to Queen Esther. She then told the king about it and gave Mordecai credit for the report. When an investigation was made and Mordecai's story was found to be true, the two men were impaled on a sharpened pole. This was all recorded in the book of the history of King Xerxes' reign. I feel like Mordecai was a good listener. For him to find out about the assassination, he was a very good listener. Moving on to chapter 3. Now, moving on to chapter 3, right? In chapter 3, we are introduced to another man in the story, whom I would like to consider him as the evil one, the villain of the story. I feel like he's the villain of the story. Because, yeah, the villain of the story. We are introduced to Haman, the son of Hammedatha, who was an Agagite. I hope I'm pronouncing that right and not butchering the name. But yeah, we are introduced to Haman, who was the son of Hamadata. We're introduced to him, and that we get some of his character on the first note, whereby he loves power. Immediately after getting power, everyone should bow down to him. Whenever he passes, you must bow down to him. But then he found the wrong one when he came to Mordecai, because Mordecai wasn't about to bow down to him. No, he wasn't about to do that. Introduced to a man who lacked power, who was selfish, and who was also self-centered. He only thought about himself and no one else. I don't like this guy, guys. I don't really like him. No. What he did was wrong, honestly. Moving on to chapter 4. Now, this is where I feel like the climax of the story begins. The action, the drama, where it all starts to begin, and the actual message, the real heartbreaking and motivational moral we get, right? Now, when we read Esther chapter 4 verses 11 to 14, it says, all the king's official and even the people in the provinces know that anyone who appears before the king in his inner court without being invited in is doomed to die unless the king holds out his gold scepter. And the king has not called for me to come to him for 30 days. So Hatak gave Esther's message to Mordecai. Mordecai sent his reply to Esther. Don't think for a moment that because you are in the palace, you will escape when all other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen for just such a time as this. Now in chapter 4, it happened that in chapter 3, because of Hamadata's evilness and the way he was so self-centered and selfish, that he decided that all Jews should be executed and killed. Why? Because Mordecai didn't want to bow down to him. Imagine. So right now, Mordecai went to Esther and told Esther about what happened, that there was a decree handed out or issued to all the provinces that all Jews spread across the province should be killed. There was the exact date there, and it was just painful. I feel like it was painful. Imagine you being told that you are going to be killed as a Christian. Like, all Christians should be killed on this day. So imagine how much stress, depression, and the anxiety, the heartbreak that must have been. But he went and told his daughter about what happened and asked that Esther should go to the king and ask him to stop this decree. To emphasize verses 14, whereby it says, if you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen for just such a time as this. Sometimes we get opportunities that we often take that does not provide deliverance nor relief to our lives, right? Those opportunities whereby you take them, but then it feels like it was better off when you didn't get that opportunity, right? And at some point they drive us away from our purpose, right? As Christians, they drive us away from our God, from having faith and hope, and we just tend to just isolate ourselves, right? Like, that is why we pray, so that we may get the right opportunities that will guide us in the right path, that will show us our main purpose, how to do it perfectly, and also that will help us to deliver deliverance, to deliver deliverance and relief, peace and love to ourselves, but not only ourselves, but to others out there that we interact with. I feel like that's what we pick up from verses 4. I feel like verse 4 is so powerful right now. The fact that opportunities that we get, sometimes we are even shocked that why some of the opportunities don't last longer, and they even lead us to depression. So the book of Esther chapter 4 is very powerful, whereby we get to recognize that some of the opportunities that we take are just ruining us, and that they don't last longer. They don't give us the peace, the deliverance, the relief that we expected them to give us. Instead, they just give us brain damage, and also get to learn that at some point we need, not at some point, most of the time, not most of the time, every time we are about to do something or we are about to take an opportunity, we should ask for the Lord's wisdom. We should ask him whether is this the right opportunity for me to take, and if I take it, will it last longer? Will I be able to go with it up until the end, or what? But we should fast. We should ask the Lord to help us in our daily missions. We don't know, maybe some of us, we're not meant for our dreams. We have dreams, right? Some of us have dreams to be anthropologists, nurses, doctors, radiologists, engineers, scientists. We have a lot of dreams, but maybe those dreams are not for us. We are not made for them. Maybe we are to be something else, because it will help others or us in the long run. So sometimes whatever we get, let us just think that maybe we are given this challenge in order to build us for our true purpose, basically. I feel like if I talk too much or talk more, I would just be talking lies and ruining the message of this chapters. So that is what we actually, that are few of the things that we get from Esther chapter 1 up until chapter 4. So this will be the end of our video for today, and I will be doing the next video, which is episode 2 of Bible study sessions, whereby we will be continuing with the book of Esther from chapter 5 up until the end of the book. So please stay tuned for the second episode of Bible study session. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please comment down below anything that I've missed out on the book of Esther from chapter 1 up until chapter 4. Anything that you have learned and maybe I didn't notice it. Please comment it down below. Thank you guys, and please stay safe and stay blessed. You know that God loves you, and you know that I love you. And until we meet again on my next video, stay safe and blessed again. Bye.